Brody's dream was to educate every department chairman in orthodontics. That was his dream. He started with Downs, who was then a professor in the prosthetic department. And Brody's seminars were
So you can move a little bit to the right.
Yeah.
A little bit to the right. She wants to look at you.
No, because it's difficult for you to look at both sides.
Why?
so.
Nice conversation.
Yes.
So
No.
Brody was an inspiring teacher, and we started out by reciting Gray's Anatomy. Every week was a different bone from memory. At the end of the week, on Friday morning, you got 3 pieces of base plate wax. You had to carve the bone. Not from the textbook. The Northwestern kids used to say, we too. But they did it from the book. We did it from memory. And the last 2 bones had to articulate. That was our beginning. Those were Brody's seminars. And you really, the man was very inspiring. What can I say? He had a charisma. He had something special about him that inspired people to want to teach, and certainly to study, and following Engel's advice that students were not vessels to be filled, but students to be lighted. So that was a year and a half. I stayed on in those days, and the other students were very jealous.
So you were married?
I was married with 2 children, living in suburban Chicago, commuting an hour and a half each way, so that my family would have a nice suburban environment.
You got a scholarship or?
No. But the tuition was like $350, and we learned from the senior class that if you go to the Democratic headquarters and raise your right hand and swear that you are a Democrat, you are now a citizen of the state of Illinois, and you have a special low fee. So that was the first bit of advice we got from the senior class. So yes, we spent a year and a half in Chicago, and you could stay on. The other graduate students were very jealous because they spent a year and a half or 2 years to get a master's degree. We would stay for anywhere from 3 months, unless Brezniak was your advisor, then you stayed for 5 years. But everybody else stayed for 3 or 4 months, if you wanted to, and to stay on for a master's degree, which I decided to do. And so I finished about 18 months. It was an 18-month course, so I finished 21 months later.
So 3 months later, you finished and you got your master's.
Got my master's. Never even went to pick it up. It came by mail because didn't feel like running back to Chicago from when I opened my office in New Jersey. And then I spent 7 years trying to get a job. Could not get a job teaching. Why?
In Penn?
Yeah, anywhere in the East Coast.
Because it came from?
No, they were fill up. Temple hadn't opened yet.
Really?
Yeah, the only schools were NYU and Penn. And they were full. And so I was kind of frustrated. My cousin Mickey Asbel was on the State Board of Examiners, so I took his place while he was on the State Board because he couldn't serve because of his position as a teacher. And so I served teaching at Seton Hall College of Dentistry. I taught dental history and research orientation. That was my first teaching job. But I couldn't get a job in an orthodontic program until I had to go to the bathroom. I took a course with Lenny Abrams in Atlantic City, a course in temporomandibular joint. Wow, what a teacher he was, and a lifelong friend. And he never got to the subject, really. He just talked about background material, all this stuff. But after a while, I had to go to the bathroom. Being human, went to the men's room, and next to me is an orthodontist named Charlie Jonas, who was a classmate of my cousin Mickey's at the University of Maryland. I said, Charlie, what does it take to get a job in this town? He said, Lieberman, I like the questions that you asked during this seminar. And we have an old fogey retiring next year. I'm going to try and get you a job at Penn. Well, that's what happened. I got my first job at Penn. I was the only person teaching edgewise at that time. There was one other gentleman who is still at Penn, Jerry Sklaroff, who was a graduate from Michigan when Michigan wasn't teaching edgewise. Mm-hmm. And so I was really, I used to sit on his seminars to find out what the students didn't know about edgewise. So a lot of labiolingual people, Johnson Twin Arch people, one person who never was grounded in edgewise, and me. And so after 1 year at Penn, the department chairman resigned, which was no great loss because his dream was to be president of the AAO, which he was, coming one morning a week to Penn as department chairman. Goodbye. Finished. So they had a search committee, and Walter Cohen said, Myron, we were friends, personal friends. He said, I'd like you to take over the department until we get someone. He said, think of it about for yourself. He said, you can have a good life as a teacher. I said, well, I don't want to live in Philadelphia, and if you're looking for someone to be the department chairman, well, let me go before the search committee. I have someone I can suggest for your department. And this is where the Bible came in. So search committee called me in, and they get a list of applicants, and they come to the name of Ackerman. And they stopped very short. Well, this will be quick because Ackerman is the name Ackerman is persona non grata at Penn. Oh, why? Because working with Krogman at the time, who was at the Child Development Center at Penn in Philadelphia, was Ackerman's father, who was an orthodontist in New Jersey. They had a terrible argument, he and Krogman. Krogman was really at the point already world famous. And the argument left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And so Ackerman was, the name Ackerman, even though this was the son. So I quoted the Bible. I said to the dean, I said, well, may I quote the Bible? Yes, of course. I said, why should the sins of the father be visited on the son? Okay, so they took Ackerman as the department chairman. And now it was a new life because the old guy's gone. Jimmy sold his practice. He was a bachelor, full-time, came to Penn. It was a whole new world, and the department changed dramatically. He hired fabulous people on the faculty. What a wonderful time. All of a sudden, about a year and a half into his office, he says, I'm leaving. Where are you going? He says, I'm going to New Jersey College of Dentistry. I said, why? He said, there may be an offer to be associate dean. He's now all of probably 30 years old. I said, but you're leaving Penn to go to New Jersey College? No, you can't do that. And you and Walter are tennis partners. You know you're going to be the dean at Penn. Why are you running to New Jersey College? He said, that's it, I'm going. He said, Myron, do me a favor. I was asked to give a course at something called the Zamenhof Clinic in Tel Aviv, Israel. And he said, I know you're interested in Israel. I had by this time become interested in moving to Israel. That's another story.
Yeah, that's the story that we also want to listen to.
So he said, would you give the course for me? I said, of course. Well, I had no material. I had been teaching for a year and a half, more or less. But I was very friendly with a Rocky Mountain East Coast manager whose name was Martin Hamilton. And I looked for him, this was now about 80 years after I had opened my office. He had been very nice. We had a good relationship during those years. And Rocky Mountain was a good company at the time, very good orthodontic, one of the few orthodontic suppliers. I looked for him, couldn't find him. Where is he? Oh, he's now the Rocky Mountain representative in Paris. I said, and I'm giving a course in Tel Aviv. So I called him on the phone. I said, do you remember me, Martin? He said, of course, what can I do for you? I said, well, I'm giving a course next year in Tel Aviv, and I want to give it on the edgewise appliance. Can you help me out? Well, he sent 20 metal typodonts, teeth already banded, tons of wires, brackets, and I came to the course. The course was in Hebrew. How did it get to be in Hebrew? Because I had two Eti friends in America, both Israelis. One was Eti Gazit, who at the time was studying orthodontics with us at Penn, and the other was a lawyer who had a Hebrew typewriter. I said, well, you're giving the course in Israel, why not give it in Hebrew? At least give the syllabus in Hebrew. So on her typewriter, on her Israeli Hebrew typewriter, prepared a stencil, and at Penn, we ran it out on the copying machine, and the poor little gopher who did all the errands and bought food for the professors came running upstairs, Dr. Lieberman, something happened to the machine. It's all coming out in Hebrew. But anyway, long story short, I come for a 5-day course at Zamenhof on Rehov King George in Tel Aviv with a 5-day course in Hebrew.
Wow.
Right. I used the same notes when I taught you guys in English, but I used the same notes. Okay, 5-year course with
What year was it?
1969. Course in Hebrew, all the supplies that they got through customs without paying anything. I don't know how they managed to do that, but maybe Max Weinreb at the time got it. Anyway, I became the orthodontic messiah. Here comes a guy with the course in Hebrew, with a new technique, all the equipment, supplies, blah, blah. So when it finished, Weinreb met me and he said, good feedback on your course. He said, maybe you'd think about coming to Israel. I had been thinking about it. And so that's how the course, thanks to Jimmy Ackerman, who didn't want to give the course, that's how this all started. So,
Really
Amazing.
yeah.
So keep going.
Yeah,
What
well-
happened? We want to see the move. The big move to
What
Israel.
happened on one of my visits, in history, the dates have special meaning. For example, if you're a student of history, you know that the year 1848 in Europe was a year that so many things happened in Europe. It changed the whole map of Europe. The year 1848. So any historian, they'll say, yes, 1848, that's the year.
Spring.
Well, for me, 1967 was the magical year for me. In 67, I got my American boards, which was, I was one of 7 people, because in those days the requirement was 2 years post-retention, not 2 years post-treatment. And so very few people took them. It was less than 15% of the profession. But I got my American boards, my first teaching job at Penn, and we had finished building our dream house. And came to Israel in December of 67, because my wife dragged me here, and we went with another young couple who had moved to Israel a year after we did, and are now living next door.
Yes, this is the couple.
So anyway, I decided I'll think about moving, and we had an interview on one of my trips for the United Jewish Appeal, and I met with Levin Epstein, who was the dean in Jerusalem, and he had been at Penn, where he had been studied maxillofacial surgery at Penn, so we had a contact to meet with him. And he said to my wife, Debbie, he said, you come from a Zionist family? She said, no. And he said, and you, Lieberman, you come from a Zionist family? I said, no. He said, good, now you have a chance. And so that was our background. And so with this invitation, I could say to my wife, now how can I pass this up? This is a wonderful, because she wasn't keen on coming full time. She would like to come summers and for 20 years, and then, eventually in old age move here. So I was able to convince her that having this invitation from Professor Weinreb, who really is the father of the dental school here.
So you actually declined a career in the States,
Penn,
which was a Penn, and
yeah.
it was absolutely open for you.
I was an assistant professor at Penn by this time, and Jimmy and I were very close, so I would have had an open door at Penn, and
Then you
that
wouldn't
was
be the
it.
founder of our department here in Tel
But
Aviv.
coming here was also because of Weinreb, and actually the piece of land here was because of Weinreb's was friendly with Rabinowitz, who was the mayor of Tel Aviv, and that's how we got this piece of land, through their friendship.
Yeah,
and
it's close to the university. The university already was open. The
Yeah.
School of
Law
Law was
here,
there.
Yeah.
Then
And
School of Medicine was after you were here.
Yeah. We started as part of continuing medical education. Our 4 best years were when we were alone. We had all the technique we wanted, and we had 4 technique at one point.
Oh, really?
Wow.
For orthodontics?
Yep.
And then now it's 1.5?
Yeah, well, we have to share, because it's based on the undergraduate teaching hours. That's the problem. So that's the background of how it came to open an orthodontic program. And then we were very fortunate that people, at the same time, at Jimmy Ackerman's wedding, I met Mel Cohen. Now, Mel Cohen, a lot of people in education, in children's dentistry, know that name, is very well known, internationally respected gentleman. And I met Mel Cohen.